Welcome, everybody. We're excited to have you all here tonight. This is a very special evening for us. We've got some poets we're really excited about joining us. And this will be the last of our first three intimate evenings of poetry here at the Office of Collecting. So we're excited to announce, too, that Jessica loves having us here, so we'll be able to continue to come back once our Poetry Arcade, which is our next big event for poets, happens. So, which we also will be announcing, now's a good time, that the Poetry Arcade will be at Core Contemporary, which is the art gallery right here next to us. So, we're excited about that, and you all have some tickets in your little flyer there. That's the first one. What the Poetry Arcade is, the free event for poets to come and read their poetry, and then afterwards, with that ticket, you can pay your favorite poet with the token, and then they will take you into our podcast room and record a private poem of theirs for you that we will then send off for you to have. So we're excited about that. It's gonna be a fun little event. So we hope you all can come. Tonight, I thought I would conclude my little poetry history that I've been doing with abstract styles of poetry. John Skelton lived in the early 1500s and decided that poems were getting a little too wordy. So he started to create short poems that popped. The skeleton style was a big influence on the anti-art movement. The term anti-art, which was a precursor to Dada, was coined by Marcel Duchamp around 1913 and characterized works that challenge accepted definitions of art, which you will see tonight. The poetry we'll be hearing will do exactly that. The Dada movement influenced later styles like the avant-garde and the downtown music movement and groups such as the Surrealism, Nueve Realism, and pop art. Another term for this style of poetry is called nonsense verse. These poems play off sound and assonance, the repetition of sounds that are near enough to each other, combined with strategically placed randomness and a splash of chaos, which, for an example, I give you my first poem of the evening, How to Lose Consciousness in a Dream. How to lose consciousness in a dream. Da-da crack, snap back, thought sap, forward trap, abstract palette. Sap trap, back snap, palette crack, forward thought, da-da, abstract. All sound. All words, the kind of flow, but what? I don't know, it's abstract as nonsense poetry. So, our first poet this evening encompasses the word creative. Gilbert Wake, aka Wake, is an up-and-coming author, poet, rapper, actor, and filmmaker. We saw his hustle early on and have been eager to publish his work from day one of the Avantpop publishing. Please help me introduce our first poet this evening, Wake.
All right. I'm going to keep this as a reference, just in case. All right. So I have a couple different things to share. First, I thought I'd just make a custom one for tonight, and then I'll get into the details of the other ones. But first off, I have Us Infinite. And what better setting than that we observe? Infinite space with which possibility emerge. I twice too often stayed up late at night, staring at the sky with no feeling of fright. Stars above whip and twirl as light ignite that inner child to omit strife. We can find better answers together. Space told me so. That's what I heard when the void spoke. Interpreted nothingness with my optimistic scope. Gravity, levity, it all makes sense through my lens. Seems this chaotic wonderland is with us till the end. That's infinite. All right. So definitely don't want to speed run it here, but the next one I definitely want to give some context to. It's gonna be about an upcoming screenplay that I had, and when I was feeling creative for this event, I was looking at what I could possibly do to challenge myself, and I came up with the conclusion of turning one of my films into a poem. And I thought that that'd just be fun. So it's completely fictional, a little bit graphic, content warning, all that fun stuff. But let's get to it. So this is Get By. Roscoe, Maya, and I live in a non-existent yet realistic world of dread. We simply wish for a future not forgotten. Past generations waged contests of combat with plenty of victors, yet never a single winner. So we work through the struggle, grimace through the pain, preconditioned for survival in any terrain. It's within all of us. We just don't witness the same. I find an opportunity for our trio. Work demining a local area now off limits. Once renowned, now riddled. Steel, iron, and dirt can be beautiful, but not in this tattered arrangement. My family refuses, but I do it for them. So I sneak out and ensure that I'm back by 10. A war was fought, local governments bought, lots of paperwork approved. Now I'm in the field. Training was quick. I'm wiping my snot. Death is a risk, but I can help us rebuild. Inch by inch, sometimes armed with a stick, we dig amid emotion and worrisome sick. Old equipment failed to feel confidence. Instead, trepidation was ominous. Hesitation causes slips, and without proper leadership, boom, we lost Roscoe one shift. Maya and I take a break, unable to cope. Our mental rolls on a downward slope. Maya moved to academics and made the choice to enter into journalism and give us a voice. She returned one summer, to my surprise, found those empathetic to nature's demise. Petitions and submissions, attrition through commissions, partitions on definitions, visits by physicians, and then money was approved. Memory was made whole again. Years fly by, been in the fields the whole time, got a son named Ross and a wife to share mine. Amazing what optimism can provide if we just open our blinds and let light inside. I did help, and I think we'll get by.
Yeah.
All right, so for the last one here, I also perform hip hop and do music as much as I can. I would say, if anything, that was how I got into this. And it's been a fun journey along the way, so I thought that tonight I would share some unreleased music, and I thought that that would be a little refreshing thing for tonight's poetry to end it with. So I'm just going to go a cappella, obviously. No matter the temperature, temporarily, I need to let it rise. For tonight, see, I hop at the car, then I'm ready to ride. You know who tagging along, though? My regret magnified. So if I insist on a subject, then I finally tackled my pride. Not waiting anymore, though. I will arise from where I sit. Took a while to admit that I'm lazy as shit, but have never felt better since the second I commit. Swear there must be something sickening with the way that I spit, 'cause I took You know that type of subject, 'cause I tend to reminisce way too much on family I never had. You know that type of subject where you move on, then you glad. You know, instead of thinking of growth, imagine my life as a show. Never appreciated rain, now I struggle through the snow. When the water reach below, you gotta shovel your balls. Ladies, you too, indulge, don't be given into gall. So easy to get involved when kindness your first impulse. Just never binge and balk, and the cube will solve and absolve. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
That was great. Let's give it a hand for Wake. Wake was also a part of our first Avantpop punk poetry anthology, which we've been a fan since the very beginning. We're super excited to be working with them. So for my second poem, I give you yet another nonsense one, surreal, if you will. This one is about being blissfully ignorant. The title of this is Free Game. Free game. Your happy holly vice is lazy LARPing. While you work, you're just whistle blowing. In your personal virtual fantasy, a comic convenience of softcore skinny dippin' sauce. In your future, I see physical street art therapy in the comfortable setting of your colored light dependency. Thank you. Well, I'm excited about this next part. When she walked into the bookstore, I immediately knew they were a poet. There was a poet living in this person, and when I asked if they were indeed a poet, they seemed a bit shocked that I could tell. I then encouraged Nemesis Pocasangre to submit some poems for our Avantpop punk poetry anthology. They did, and we were so excited to get these poems in print. We're even more excited that they will be read to us tonight. Let's give a warm welcome to Nemesis.
Hello. My name is Nemesis Pocasangre, and I'm very excited to be here as well as super nervous. This is my first time ever reading anything out loud. So thank you, Sugar and Shwa, for letting me be here and to share my work. I have 6 poems to read tonight. They're small. The longest one is about 1 minute and 30 seconds, so I'm just going to go from the shortest to the longest, and then, yeah. All right, let's get into it. They're all titled, so hopefully you'll be able to tell and keep up with the pace. So this one is, This Isn't the Hole to Wonderland. I fell down a rabbit hole, weightless body sinking down, down, down. Panic arising as realization kicks in, how on earth will I survive this? A scream wants to be let out, but fear clogs the throat. There's a hint of shame for allowing myself to end up in this place. I thought it was safe. I thought this time it's going to be okay, but the person trusted is the very same one to push me. I slowly fade into a state with no escape, yet even as I fall, I watch them with loving eyes, knowing I would let them push me again so I can drag them down with me. This next one is called Lucid Dream. 2 nights in a row, I fell asleep while on my phone. My dreams are a bit unknown. I never notice when I cross over to that zone, making what my shut eyes see seem like it's my actual reality. When I wake up, I have a crisis of identity. For when I sleep, the people that speak twist their words the way that frightens me. My anxiety fully allowing itself to take over, knowing very well that in REM, I can't stop things from happening. If only I could lucid dream, maybe I can finally get some peace. If only I could lucid dream, maybe my anxiety will finally ease. If I could lucid dream, would the demons only get more frightening? If I could lucid dream, would I be stuck inside my nightmares? If I could lucid dream, would I only end up dying? This one is called Disappearing Act, and for context, I like writing things that are kind of sad, but like sometimes it's based off of my own sadness, other people's sadness, or just like make-believe sadness. So this one's kind of make-believe. It's worrisome in some ways, but just like, again, for context, this is just me having fun with words. Know that I'm not a part of this life anymore. Use me, abuse me, it's all a shit show. The water shines. I'm afraid of heights. These city lights are so bright, they take me out of sight, which you don't mind. Am I even one of a kind? You tease me, squeeze me, really know how to freeze me. What's the point now? All I do is frown. If I drown, would you even miss me, or would you find someone else to piss off? Would she be claiming the same, or would you make her equally unworthy? I guess it's true what they say, we're all just trying to find our own way. I'm pretty sure I've lost mine, and this water is starting to look real nice. Know that I'm not a part of this life anymore. Use me, abuse me, it's all a shit show. The water shines, I'm afraid of heights. These city lights are so bright, they take me out of sight, which you don't mind. Was I ever worth your time? I'm starting to believe the lies of the devil. I'm in big trouble now because way up here the water seems so near. It shines so dark I think I've lost my spark. If I jump, would I float around? Would anyone notice I've skipped town? And there's a sound, a constant ringing in my ears, a fear that always seems near. I guess it's true what they say. We're just all trying to find our own way. This one is called Confession, and I wrote this a year ago when I was in a relationship and it was supposed to be positive, and then that relationship ended, and when I was looking for content for tonight, I thought this would be a really good one to twist around. So this one's Confession. Tonight I'm taking you to church, because this is a confession, and I know I'm no preacher, and I know you're no priest, but please allow me to speak the sins I deeply keep. This is my confession. I thought I found somebody who seemed to deeply care for me, and it was scary just how vulnerable and comfortable I could be when he looked at me in the hue of the night, whispering softly that I was the only one he needed. 'Cause for the longest of time, I thought I was unlovable. 'Cause for the longest of time, I craved so deeply for someone to see me. I thought I found somebody before, but their own confession left me in pieces, strongly believing no one would put me first. Even when I put me first, it never felt enough. But this is a confession, and I saw myself slowly falling for what I had, and it scared me greatly that I no longer hated myself, and it scared me greatly how much I loved his hands on my own skin when before the touch of another made me want to rip off my own flesh. But this is a confession, and letting myself fall for such a man was the biggest mistake I could do. I wanted so desperately to be loved that I accepted a half-assed connection as something that was pure. So forgive me, Father, for I have sinned, but could you maybe bring me someone who will actually put in the effort and not kick me to the curb when life becomes a little too hard. Amen. This one's called Miserable Life. I really love playing around with repetition, so this one's very repetitive, and my friends who have read it claim that it sounds like a song. But, so yeah, Miserable Life. I want to know what it's like to be truly happy, where my days are spent smiling and not scowling and crying, where I'm not irritated by everything or hiding in the bathroom so I don't have to act like I'm strong. I'm back to my old ways of sitting on cold tiles, snot sticking to my eyebrows from my face being in my hands, tears mixing with disgrace, leaving me with a red face. I'll wash away the pain with cold water to hide my stained complexion. I'll look myself in the eyes, tell myself this time I'll be all right, but deep down inside a voice whispers back, begging that I lie. What a miserable life, never knowing if I'll be all right. What a miserable life, never knowing if I have the time. What a miserable life, always wishing for my demise. What a miserable life, what a miserable life, what a miserable life. I live a miserable lie, smiling when I don't want to, fake laughing to seem happy, but deep down inside, this miserable lie is suffocating me greatly, yet I stay silent because the last thing I want is someone else hurting for me. I'll wash away the pain with cold water to hide my stained complexion. I'll look myself in the eyes, tell myself this time I'll be all right, but deep down inside, a voice whispers back, begging that I lie. What a miserable life, never knowing if I'll be all right. What a miserable life, never knowing if I have the time. What a miserable life, always wishing for my demise. What a miserable life, what a miserable life, what a miserable life. So I'll walk out, head held high, fake smile to distract the pain in my eyes, laughing and joking so others won't suspect that deep down inside, I live a miserable lie, hiding my miserable mind, slowly dying in my miserable life. Alright, and then this is my last one. It's called Childhood. And this one kind of makes me really emotional, so if I end up crying, just, let it happen. I'll try my best to finish it. That's why it's the last one. So yes, childhood. As a child, I grew up seeing certain looks from grown-ass men and hearing sounds leave drunken lips that should never be made to children. As a child, I was forced to never speak my mind. Conversations were for grown-ups, and honey, at this time, you're no one. As a child, I learned to hide everything I felt deep, deep, deep inside. Even when I did speak, no one would listen. As the youngest one in a large, close family where cousins are basically siblings, no one wants to hear you. As a child, I was once outspoken, taken on personalities of everyone around, never having my own. So now that I'm older, my insecurities are all from the beginning. My family nickname is Baby, clearly taken in many more ways than one. The youngest of everyone, the one who was always crying, the one who would never shut up until I did and no one batted an eye. As an adult, I find my sexuality embarrassing thanks to the grown men that made my skin tingle with discomfort. I find it hard to speak now. No one ever wanted to listen. As an adult, I'm learning to heal, to accept that I am a woman who is actually beautiful, to embrace that I have a voice that people might want to hear. As an adult, I want to be seen. I'm tired of hiding in the shadows, of being too scared to fight for my life, to accept that there is a future for me. As an adult, I'm embracing baby. I'm holding her tightly, letting her know that she's loved, that she should be heard, that her body is not gross, that she deserves to love herself, that she deserves to speak for herself, that she deserves to live, even if it's just for herself, especially if it's for herself. Thank you.
Well, like I said, there was a poet in there. I think you smashed it too. I think you did it for your first reading. That was pretty amazing. So you should be proud of yourself, Nemesis. All right. That's a hard one to follow up. Let me see here. All right. Well, my last poem for this evening is a new poem which will be featured in the volume 3 of our Avantpop punk poetry anthology. Now, it wasn't my intent when I was writing this poem, but after reading it a few times, I realized that there's an overt sexual tone of the poem, so brace yourselves. The title of this abstract wordplay poem is Get Over Here. And I, too, like repetitive words, mix them all up, so just get over here. Shimmy your decadent giggliness into my satisfying sanctuary. Glide your shimmering debauchery into my gratifying grotto. Dive your giddy sultriness into my dazzling daydream. Shimmy your giddy debauchery into my gratifying grotto. Glide your decadent sultriness into my dazzling daydream. Dive your shimmering giggliness into my satisfying sanctuary. Shimmy your shimmering sultriness into my satisfying sanctuary. Glide your giddy giggliness into my gratifying grotto. Dive your decadent debauchery into my dazzling daydream. Well, we saved the craziest for last. We first fell in love with Garrett James Dillon's work when he submitted poetry to our very first punk poetry anthology. From there, we published his first complete book of poetry, Reflections from the Haze, which was magnificently accompanied by art from his close friend, artist Seth Singer. As I wrote on the back of the cover of the book, Dillon has the voice of a dystopian punk rock Charles Bukowski that converses, babbles, and screams with and at the abyss as if they were lifelong friends. This year we'll be publishing our first short stories with Dillon, but until then, join me by welcoming our last poet of the evening, Garrett James Dillon.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
My name is Garrett James Dillon, and I want to thank everyone, first of all, in the audience for coming out and supporting local poetry. Also, let's hear it for Gilbert and Nemesis. Those were some heavy sets, and I'm very honored to share the stage with them. I'd also like to thank the Office of Collecting for hosting this event, and of course, the utmost appreciation to Sugar and Shwa for everything that they do for local poetry and art through Avantpop, including, as they've already said, publishing my first book, as you can see right here, which is available for purchase. Unfortunately, my good friend and spiritual advisor, Seth Singer, could not be here tonight. But that being said, let's just jump into it. Other people did content warnings, so I guess I'll do some for mine. There will be blasphemy and references to narcotics. So with that known, let's just dive straight in. And if I go over 15 minutes, just toss the bottle at me, and I'll know that it's time for me to get off the stage.
We got plenty of time, so you can go over.
Thank you. The first poem is called Untitled. It's still untitled. Bled dry and begging for the sunrise, I wring out my sleeves for leftover tricks, hoping for some counterfeit salvation, or at the very least a loose Seroquel, but find nothing except battery acid and bullet casings, glass eyeballs and loaded dice, wasted wreckage like relics to be hoarded and worshipped by headless mannequins frozen in obscene poses as they wait for their chance to scream. The enemy of my enemy is my only friend now, as the butterflies embrace cannibalism and the shadows dance in agony down unnamed roads littered with crosses and confetti towards treasures too terrible for our pitiful language to describe. The madmen who once raved about Armageddon in the streets have all gone mute and speak to us now by way of a dead, unblinking stare, the color of diseased milk stretching 99 miles in every direction. It is the only joke left to laugh at and the only gospel left to suffer for. It is the only promise that cannot be broken and the only truth that will ever set you free. As a general rule of thumb, whenever I take a drink, that's when you know that the poem is finished. That's, you know. This next poem is unpublished, unposted, and rather old, so gives you an idea of where I was coming from. This is called This Treachery is Yours and Mine and Nothing Special. Men will sell their hours for the filthiest coins, while jewels sit like poison within their tired skulls. Such a wretched last request to waste away in air conditioning, this funeral wrapped up in record time. And that which we kill will revisit us. In the space between our dreams and the waking terror, smiling through diversion tactic ritual and humming along to the tachycardia. Don't move in the name of the great enforcer. Once again, no options left at the bottom of the stairs, just cheap sunlight through bone-dry bottles and hemorrhage sweet like candy on the street side. Thank you very much. This next poem is about dissociatives and astrology, and I wouldn't recommend astrology to anyone. This one is called Ketamine Moon. Turned on with the safety off, my nightmares come true and gnaw my bones. Dancing with a hospital gown or drowning in moonlight, you know exactly what you are. Been this way since fractured memory can recall necromancer's funeral so full of dull surprises. They found me, baptized in vodka, biting rats in consecrated darkness, and I found them boring and predictable, lost valor seizing up underneath comatose stars. I lost them under a hornet sun, subsisting on sand and other crystalline landscapes, guided by futility through my cursed quest to understand, this thirst that begs for relief with no exceptions, this hunger that knows no defeat or death. Thank you. Now, most of my poetry is not political in any sort of a conventional sense, and I would argue that this one is not political in a conventional sense either. That being said, I do feel the need to let you know that this next one is dedicated to the current Supreme Court majority and the Christian fundamentalists that bought and paid for them. This is a poem called Lion's Food. Oh, to be godless in a godly place, blessed against our will by minority rule mandate and anointed in gunpowder on a weekly basis. Yesterday grips a garrote behind you. The men of God flash their teeth in a grin and wait with a saint's patience to hear the gnashing of yours. Here in the land of coat hangers and confession booths, of broken promises and crumbled walls, where men in robes speak for God but hear only cash registers, trying their damnedest to trade sodomy for segregation at the courthouse, their sacred salvation cooked down to a campaign slogan to be dispatched as gospel in trademark pogrom cadence. There are no heretics amongst them, no deviants from some lost righteousness to rethread the narrative, no better angels to grovel to under this blinding light. No. God's America is functioning exactly as it was intended to. The snake handlers have quit gambling and embraced the Gadsden shuffle. Those who speak in tongues whisper to power in a more universal language. The Calvinists preach predestination with a cheat sheet in their wallet, and the priests lick their lips as they count fresh meat orphans like rosary beads in the dark. These are truly the men of Jehovah. The God who drowned his children as they clawed at the ark, whose chosen people he let be enslaved and paid for their freedom with innocent blood, who raped a child so his only son could be tortured to death for his own failures, who blessed us with this diseased life and then cursed us to be cured of it. And every knee shall bow. Thank you. Now, that last poem might have come across as a little bit anti-Christianity, and that's because that was exactly the sentiment it was supposed to convey. But you know, the Christians, they tell me, in the very limited interactions that I have with them, that Jesus is everywhere. And with that in mind, I feel like he might be with us a little bit here tonight. And that, of course, brings me to my next poem, if I can locate it, which is titled, Jesus is my co-pilot, and he's feeding me bumps off a buck knife. Disconnect, disappoint, destruction sanctioned without a second thought, wasting anything that trickles our way, picking grave flowers along the way, fuming blasphemies, narcotic bubbling up through a used skyline. Intolerable, intersect. In these moments the claw marks radiate, the walls cannot be trusted. Venom makes richer men than antidotes, while bunkers hum and wait below. Barbed wire conclusions strung like intestines. Underrated, undeniable. Understand that you sit on the precipice, and these cheap adhesives serve as solvent. The bag of tricks has a bottom like pyrite. I once saw a man on fire begging for change, but the others flowed past like water. Deviate, devour, devise the ritual that will sound the sickened. Scaled back ambition on Ambien and huffing the perfume of decay, at midday shameless as a broken catheter, or some other hymn you'll never hear, or get out of here alive. Thank you very much. I think I'm just going to stick to the last two here. Doing all right on time? Doing all right on time? All right. Excellent. This is easily the longest poem that I've ever written and fits very well within the tradition of nonsense that our good host Shwa has talked about. This is called The Man from Nowhere. The man from nowhere was never here. He slept on the steps of pristine chapels in cities eaten alive by locusts, moving ever closer towards the third sun, a rare form of dementia, his only guide. The man from nowhere won't come back. He was last spotted dissecting stray dogs in Phoenix with fresh swastika tattoos on his face, but spit all his teeth out and ran before mob justice could be enacted. Traces of his urine were found on telephone wires. People don't talk about it much anymore. The man from nowhere keeps on moving. He was briefly wanted for arson and consensual sodomy in Mississippi, but got a sex change and found God somewhere in Iceland. Relatives claim he always carries broken glass in his pockets. When offered medicine, he curses in dead tongues and has been known to extinguish entire species in his sleep. He claims an obscure supernova remnant as his address. He votes every week. The man from nowhere hasn't died yet. He subsisted mostly on drywall and endangered snails and bought his soul from Satan for used gloves. His grave is located somewhere between the Pacific Ocean and the Great Void. Some say he was born in a hurricane. The man from nowhere looks to the side. The man from nowhere has no right to exist. His addiction to indifference and crushed finger bones fueling small tribal skirmishes in parts of the world where human flesh is still considered sacrament and butane is the main food source. He has stated repeatedly and at great length that he has no interest in happiness or love. His only goal is to rape Jesus Christ in heaven. His only loyalty is to Jesus Christ above. The man from nowhere returns home. He is carcinogenic. He is apoplectic. He is apocryphal, shifting narratives and tectonic plates with the obscene grace of an epileptic abortionist. His last will and testament is a Jack Chick comic with everyone's eyes crossed out. The man from nowhere fucking hates you. And me. When given the choice between immortality and amorality, it was said he laughed until his lungs collapsed. But everyone who claimed to know for sure died shortly thereafter under curious circumstances, while the man from nowhere kept on laughing. Thank y'all for sticking through that with me.
You suck. Play wagon wheel.
How are you getting home tonight? Let's see. Yeah, I think I'll end on this one. This will be my last poem for the night. This is called Laughing and Losing. It's funny to think how we never stood a chance, incubated in insecurity, then let loose to conquer. Expectations infected at conception, swelling up like angel's lust, then devouring host and dying all-American. Symbiosis at gunpoint, force-feeding a dead culture, its proudest tradition the worst possible outcome. Like aggravated arson in the bloodstream, the suicide bullet christened and deflowered, your prayers unanswered and buried in the backyard. No room left for the common shaman or con man, just ripped off rain dancers lying face down in the mud. Never forget that life is always funny, it just ain't always your turn to laugh.
All right. Garrett James Dillon, everybody. Well, we have a little time this evening before we go, so I am just going to do one more of my little abstracties for you. Let's see here. So I hope everyone's enjoying this evening.
The last guy kind of ruined it.
Oh, you kidding? It was one of our favorites. One of our favorites. Well, this is one of my new ones as well that I thought I'd leave on a love poem. This is my second one in this collection that I've been doing called Healthy Love Poems. And this one is Healthy Love Poem number 2. I love you on this sand dune of sparkling microplastics, with that hypnotic sound of waves upon waves of majestic radiation. It truly brightens up your gloomy, psychotic, demoralized expression. Intoxicated by the toxins, chemicals spilling into our immediate direction, you take my breath away, like the air these days. It makes choking so much more pleasurable. With every last second that passes, we should escape the masses, but we're caught in a styrofoam bubble affecting the lower classes. So, my love, it's you and me, living the virtual dream, trying desperately to be blissfully oblivious of our systemic drowning. So just a love poem to leave you on. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming out, and our poets this evening, Wake, Nemesis, and Garrett. We are looking forward to continuing doing these here. Jessica, the owner, is happy to continue doing these. So after these first 3 rounds, we've won her over, and we'll continue to do these. Until then, we have coming up the Poetry Arcade, like I said, at the office at the Core Contemporary Gallery, and then we're giving some of our more hardcore poets, Garrett, a space at Red Dwarf Bar, where we'll be doing doomed poetry, much like the love poem you just heard, and some others that will be a little more activist oriented and a little just darker, a little doomier, you know. So. Again, my name is Shwa Laytart, and with my wife Sugar, we own Avantpop Bookstore and Avantpop Publishing. We thank you all for coming this evening, and please enjoy the last bit of time we have here at Office Collecting, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you all again.